Welcome everyone to our special talk in conversation with Matt Golding, Political Cartoonist of the Year. My name is Katie and I'm Public Programs Coordinator at the Old Treasury Building. Before we start, I'd like to acknowledge that the Old Treasury Building is on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. This talk is presented as part of the public program for the travelling exhibition Behind the Lines 2025, the Year in Political Cartoons, which is now open at the Old Treasury Building. And you can visit the OTB for free, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m, Sunday through Friday until the 3rd of May. Now I'll hand you over to Matt Jones, curator at the Museum of Australian Democracy. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Katie. I'm here at the museum today. I'm coming here from Canberra, and I'd just like to start off by saying that the museum acknowledges Australia's First Nations people as the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia. We recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and community. We respectfully acknowledge the role that First Nations people continue to play in shaping Australia's democracy. We also acknowledge the Ngunnawal, Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples as the traditional custodians of the region in which Moab is located. I would also like to extend this acknowledgement to all First Nations people watching the presentation online. I would also like to acknowledge the support of the National Collecting Institutions Touring and Outreach Program, and that's an Australian government program aiming to improve access to national collections for all Australians. Through their support, each year we're able to tour the exhibition around 3 or 4 other venues, which is why it's partly why it's at the Old Treasury Building in Melbourne. So thank you to them. So Behind the Lines, for those of you who don't know, is an annual exhibition that looks back at the last year in politics through the eyes of Australia's best political cartoonists. It's been going for 30 years now, which makes it one of Australia's longest running annual exhibitions. This year's edition features 100 works by Australian cartoonists and illustrators, including this year's Behind the Lines Australian Political Cartoonist of the Year, Matt Golding, and last year's winner, Megan Herbert, who are both with us today. And today's event will focus on cartoons by both Matt and Megan and how they tackled the big themes and stories of 2025 and also 2026. Some of the cartoons we talk about will be from the current Behind the Lines, which you'll be able to see at the Old Treasury Building, but they've also, Matt and Megan, have selected some bonus content for you today. And those extra cartoons don't appear in the exhibition, so it's worth sticking around and seeing what they are and hearing Matt and Megan talk about it. So before we jump into the discussion about the cartoons and start showing them, I'm wondering if Matt and Megan, you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. Yeah, so Matt, would you mind kicking off?
Thanks, mate. So my name's Matt Golding. I'm a political cartoonist with The Age and Sydney Morning Herald, and this year's Moab Cartoonist of the Year, which is quite lovely. Thank you.
And Megan.
Hello, everyone. My name's Megan Herbert, and I'm very lucky to be Matt Golding's colleague at The Age and Sydney Morning Herald as well as many other lovely cartoonists. And yes, I was very lucky to be the Cartoonist of the Year last year, and still lucky to be having a cartooning job. That's good news, always good news.
Okay, well, thanks for that, guys. We'll start off, we're going to go a little bit back in time. All the cartoons are going to sort of look at last year and 2026, but this one's from 2021. It's a somewhat bleak but also funny cartoon by Megan, which appeared on her Instagram. Megan, this is from 2021. Surely things have gotten better since then. The world's going pretty good, isn't it?
I think we've gone from bleak to dark, officially, haven't we? Yes, it's sad to think that cartoons like this are probably just evergreens now.
Yeah. And this was one that, can you tell us a little bit more about the cartoon? Was there a particular subject you had in mind, or was it just a general, finger on the pulse of how the world was feeling at the time?
Initially, the idea started, it was a climate cartoon, and the child holding the crayon who's added the ER to the sign is one of the, not exactly Greta, but somebody who's from the school Strikes for Climate group, just a young kid who'd read, I believe it was when a new IPCC report had come out, and it was even worse than the last one, as they tend to be. And it was just her adding on her thoughts to what is a New Yorker trope. The end is nigh guy is one of those reliable New Yorker gags, and I thought she might want to add her thoughts to it. But it does apply to kind of everything now, doesn't it? It's not just climate, sadly.
It's funny because I think I don't know who showed it. My partner actually showed me this cartoon when she was getting excited about the event. And she said, "Oh, I love this one by Megan." And I just assumed it was one from, a few weeks ago or last year or it does seem evergreen,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Mm.
Well, the next one that we've got is one that Matt did just last year, so not quite as old, but it's the subject of the cartoon is going a little bit further back in time. And it's showing a couple of political dinosaurs arguing about what they see as the number one issue. I guess this one was around the election, Matt, was it?
That's right. So it was, it was, I guess, pulling together the sort of two issues. I guess one that, climate change front and center, but still manages to get pushed back to number 3 or 4 on the list of what is the voters, what's front of mind for the voters and for the politicians. So combining the two together with the idea of cost of living and existential crisis of climate change coming flying towards us. So they've got a lovely sort of reaction. I think it's sort of connected with a bunch of people as we try to sort of balance these two ideas together.
It was one of the more popular ones. So when we do these shows, we harvest a lot of cartoons, about 1,000, and the team here does a long list of, before we get down to 100, of about, 250 or 300, and we show them to people, the broader curatorial team. And, this was definitely one that hit home as soon as it came up. And so did this next one, which is also kind of on a similar theme, but, I'll read it for you for people that are having trouble to seeing the words, but there's the world, having a nice long sleep, and the alarm goes off in 1996, and it says, this is your climate emergency wake-up call, beep, 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 beep. And the world just hits snooze, and then the same thing's repeated through 1996, 98, 2001, 2004, right up to 2022. And then in 2025, the world gets a slightly different message. This is your cost of living emergency wake-up call, beep, 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 beep. And, it makes the world spring into action, leap straight out of bed and is ready to go. So this also strikes me as another, must have been done around about the same time. And it was one of those things during the election where I was always a little bit surprised that people couldn't see how cost of living is connected to climate change. It was a big theme throughout that particular election campaign.
This was, it's basically covering 11 of the previous elections, where climate change has been, coming towards us at a rapid rate, and it's just funny how the human psyche can be sort of triggered into action by something that's you're feeling, I guess, when you go out to the shops every day. I guess, but we are seeing, a climate affecting basically the news cycle, every week with dramatic effects. But I mean, this was fun to, the idea of drawing the globe putting on a pair of Y fronts was quite nice. The idea you can't actually action anything unless you are wearing underpants is an important lesson, I think.
The discussion I have with my 6 and 7-year-old every morning when they get up and they just want to run straight outside in their pajamas, you have to get ready for the day.
Yeah, never make big decisions unless you're wearing pants.
Words to live by.
I think so.
So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the event, that we would cover some of the big topics. So we've moved obviously into the realm of climate change, which is, there are a lot of big issues in the world, but it's pretty hard to think of one bigger because it affects pretty much everything that we're about to talk about today. It's kind of the meteorite in the room, so to speak. And this one, Megan, actually, this really clever join the dots with a dead fish on the ocean is about a very specific event that happened in South Australia.
Yes, it's still happening and will continue to happen while ever we boil the ocean, sadly. So yes, the algal bloom situation, which is in South Australia now, but it'll be coming to a town near all of us shortly, I'm sure. And the discourse around it, when I made this cartoon, was very much who's to blame and who's going to clean it up. And it was all very focused on the now, when of course it's actually the end result of all the things that haven't happened. So that's what I wanted to say with this cartoon. All the delaying and denying and not doing enough and extracting too much and all those things, ignoring all the warnings, pressing snooze. That is what has led us to this. So it's not a matter of cleaning up what's on the shore. It's a matter of having done something at a time that's already in our past. So I don't know how we look at that. Sorry to be grim, but it's that the habit politics has of focusing on the right now or the next year or the next cycle, rather than what has come before, when they could have actually done something, or looking far into the future to plan.
I think
I think that's also what's very effective. Sorry, Matt, you go.
I was going to say, it's just such a great example, this cartoon. When a cartoon can really take a big picture look at an issue and then do it so simply. I think that's the beautiful power of something like this, where Megan's just captured all the different points that have led up to this catastrophic event, which is affecting so many people, so many industries, the environment. It's it's unfortunately it's a great example of what a cartoon can do, I think. So
yeah, and I think it's a very, very good example of the dual things that can happen in the cartoon, the juxtaposition of different visual strategies and ideas, that you look at it and you look at it for one reason and try and, what's going on here? And then the message can gradually reveal itself to you with further interrogation. So I think it does that very well. This next one is also, we're moving on to a different topic now. So we're moving much more into the election, which was referenced in a couple of Matt's first cartoons. And this is a very clever use of a very famous painting, and I'll let Matt talk more about it. And I guess it would have been completed not long after the election, Matt, or I can't remember when the election happened.
I think it was probably printed within sort of about 7 days of the 2025 election. A lot of fun to draw. Obviously, I've just taken the wonderful Edward Hopper painting and just sort of played around. I normally do sort of line work with caricatures, but this one was painterly. And yeah, look, so basically it was, obviously Labor landslide. Peter Dutton, had lost his seat, and the Liberal Party were pretty much, decimated. So I guess the scene is sort of the Sky After Dark sort of feel. The waiter behind the counter is Rupert Murdoch, with a few pots there. Very hard to read the writing, but sort of basically it's a mixture of sort of the culture wars and divisiveness is the toxic brew being served up. And then in the red is Peter Credlin. Next to her is Tony Abbott. And then we've got obviously ScoMo with the ukulele, and then a little bit ostracised in the corner is Malcolm Turnbull, and this sort of alien-looking figure of Dutton sort of walking towards them, giving them a wave in this sort of cold, desolate sort of inner urban landscape. So it was just it's lovely when you get cartoons that don't need words and can tell this is, again, it's covering a decade or so of Australian politics. So it's got this lovely sort of long resonance, and the viewer can make their way through the picture and piece it all together. So it was one of my faves, I think, from the last little period.
There was a bit of a debate. It's funny. So this was obviously another one that was shown at one of these curatorial meetings that go off script fairly easily because people spend so much time laughing. But they wanted to know if he was pushing a pool door. It had that kind of feeling.
Gary Larson.
Yes. Talking about cultural references, so one form of American realist modernism in painting, and now just Scandinavian simple design modernism, maybe. This was a very, I'm not going to attempt to read it, but this was a really ingenious cartoon. I'll do my best Swedish chef. But this was a cartoon that, was this not long after Susan Ley became the first woman to lead the Liberal Party?
That's right. So it's sort of, I guess this sort of flows on from the aftermath. The basically having to construct something new with an Allen key for the Liberal Party. So again, this was a very fun one to draw, and the way these ideas evolve, you sort of start with a little kernel and then you sort of extrapolate it out a bit. So we've got the complete rebuild to regain seats with the cross on the "Do not use your Peter Dutton," and then we've got Susan Lay's leader and Ted O'Brien caricatured. Sorry, my dog's making a bit of noise. It's dinner time for him. We've got the 42 wing nuts, which make up, the combined what's left of the coalition. The one Naps spanner thrown in the works, Allen key, and then you've got the out of stock item, which is the Monique Ryan's Kooyong chair, but still in stock is the Tim Wilson winning Goldstein from the No Idea.
I just want to say this one made me snort laugh the first time I saw it, and then going through all the detail like that is so wonderful, and it speaks to the power of the umlaut, how you can put an umlaut over any word and it's instantly Swedish. I love that so much. And also the fact that there are numbers on those little wing nuts and spanners that look like dates, and I'd love to know what those dates refer to, because I can't see. I'm going to expand my screen a bit.
Yes, there is a date there. That's correct.
Yeah. I didn't want to put Matt on the spot with that. My question was more just a comment that I love the way that when these sorts of cartoons come together, it, as you were saying, starts with a kernel, but then as you're making them, you think up all these little funny extra bits to put on. And this is the perfect example of that, because you've got all the detail that we're so used to seeing on those instructions and finding little ways, even the No Idea, it just, every little element is another punchline to add to the joke, another little, I love it. It's my favorite thing.
That's right. And you sort of stumble across these things and it makes you look good.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I guess that's part of the fun too. You're working to a line. I guess, one thing I've sort of learned a little bit, which is what the good thing about this job is you do keep learning, but just hold off on the deadline and step away from a cartoon and come back in 20 minutes later, and you can see possibly you add things, you take things out, but the cartoon sort of evolves, and even in, obviously I'm sort of working sort of Monday to Friday with an idea like this. Sometimes the idea will come up, doesn't quite fully form itself, and then it gets put on the back burner, and then each day you come back to it, and then possibly sometimes even a week later, it's actually then matured enough to be to actually make the grade. So it's like, these things, sometimes the ideas are quick and fast and clear. Other times you've got to sort of mold them, and then I guess a lot of them also get thrown in the bin, which is okay.
Just on the Susan Lay and using references as a shorthand. So I think, you had something to say to us the other day about references, Megan, so please feel free to talk more about it. But this is now a cartoon jumping ahead to the end of Susan Lay's time as the leader of the Federal Liberal Party, which was the second shortest in Liberal Party history.
Yes, when I made this cartoon, I was very conscious of the fact that it would probably only resonate with a certain percentage of the population, which is Gen X, really, and maybe some further generations who have caught up on their Simpsons lore. But this was from an early season, this joke, 4 or 5 or something. But it's something that we all know very well. Anyone who grew up watching the Simpsons knows this one. So it was when Lisa was trying to prove that Bart was dumber than a hamster. That was her science fair project. And she managed to do that. So the hamster learned not to eat the cupcake, but Bart kept coming back and getting buzzed every time. And just watching the Liberal Party wheel out the same policy over and over again, this joke just kind of landed in my lap. And I thought, well, I'm just going to pinch it and work out how to make that work, because they just kept pushing the nuclear thing. They kept pushing the no net zero to their detriment every time. So it just seemed funny to me. But with regards to references, I do worry sometimes that because we're also fractured and looking into our little corners of the world, and we don't have these shared cultural touchstones anymore, that it's going to become increasingly difficult to make these references in political cartoons, because you really know that you're going to be speaking to one section of the population rather than everybody. Whereas I think there used to be a time where we were all kind of drinking from the same cultural water cooler, weren't we? Had our 5 television channels, so we all had a pretty good idea of the same culture on there, reading the same newspapers, all of that. The internet wasn't sending us in different directions. So I was aware that I may not be reaching everyone with this one, but I didn't care. Yeah.
I think IKEA and The Simpsons are still culturally relevant enough. Talking about references, we're now going to move into the realm of US politics and the incredible influence that the US has always had on our corner of the world and the rest of the world. But Donald Trump and his second presidency and the blitzkrieg of policies and stream of social media messages has, created lots of grist for the mill for cartoonists, I'd imagine. And so can you tell us a little bit about this one, Megan?
Yeah, again, it was one that I thought, well, enough people will know this one. And he was still hungry is kind of the unspoken part of this cartoon, because keeping up with the Donald Trump news cycle and making cartoons about it is so difficult, because just as soon as you have an idea, it's irrelevant because he's done something worse or more shocking, and it's really hard to keep up with it. So that feeling of what do I make it about this week? It just keeps coming. So I thought, oh, hang on, he keeps chewing through these things, and that's where the idea kind of came from. So you'll see all the different things there, that all the issues which seemed so major the day they came out, and then they're forgotten because there's something worse the next day. And then obviously Greenland was the one that was most relevant, that he was about to sort of do whatever he was going to do there. So that was the timing of it. But I kept thinking, there are all these other things we should still be talking about. He's only just done those. So there was a way of jamming them in as well.
It's a beautiful caricature, an Eric Carlesque caricature of Donald Trump. I really love the tired eyes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, they're quite distinctive, aren't they? Those
it is a bit of
bags.
Just the idea of, you can seriously just like lay down a splash of orange with a little wisp of yellow, open angry mouth, and which I think was one of the beautiful covers for the New Yorker or whatnot.
Oh yes.
As a visual representation, you can simplify his face down to that, and so it's not fun working with Donald, but it's visually fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think a lot of cartoonists have had a lot of fun with him, but there are other cartoons like this one of yours, Matt, that kind of that uses his a silhouette of Trump's face, but refers to the well, I'll let you talk about it, but this refers to the LA riots, doesn't it?
So this was when he sent in National Guard troops to Los Angeles. And again, it was the simple comment. He's basically inflaming the situation. But I guess, using sort of the really sort of powerful visual symbols of the American flag, Donald Trump's head, and just the idea of obviously fire. So it's got a lovely simplicity, but then a lovely sort of power to it. Just sort of the swipe to sort of give the hairline. It was one of those ones that, again, you're playing around with ideas, and sometimes that has come together beautifully. And this was a very quick, easy sort of. I think I ended up using the rough sketch I did because I loved the freedom of the way I drew the matches and whatnot. So as I sort of go on, I get a bit more relaxed sometimes, and a lot of the times now I'm using the initial sketch because there's a lovely sort of freedom to the line and to the idea, and so that's where this one sort of originated from. And again, it was fun playing with all the graphic elements of sort of doing the silhouette from the striking pattern of the matches and whatnot. So it was good.
Can I ask a question? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's of Mr. Golding. Do you start with sketches or words? Is your sketchbook the main thing? Are you drawing or are you writing, or is it both?
It's both. It's both. So yeah, the ideas get triggered from. I mean, a lot of the times it can be just a phrase or an idea. I mean, I guess the idea is you're capturing an idea, a comment, and illustrating that. But I think a lot of the times when you have a subject pop up, there are really obvious visual points where you sort of play from. So obviously with if it's something to do with Trump or America, the flag is a big one. Uncle Sam is there. So a lot of the times you think about what are the really strong images to play with, to communicate whatever it is you want to say. And that can be the leaping point. Or again, with Trump, there's always, the way he talks and the constant use of it. It can be like, I've just opened a jar possibly the world has never seen done before. Yeah. It's just repetitive.
Yeah.
Grandiose, idiotic phraseologies which you play with. So I guess you're the same, Megan. There are things that just jump out some days in issues where there's an idea in there, and that's where you should probably focus. And if you don't, you'll see one of the other cartoonists' work appear the next day and go, there it is. That was so often there's an idea there, and you can wrestle with it for an hour or two and maybe not come up with anything. But most likely, a Mark Knight or a Kathy Wilcox or David Rowe will have done it beautifully, better than you could have. And so yeah.
The next in our the ones on Trump, ones where he actually he does appear. Sorry, he appears on the box of the Trump game. This is, I think this was another very interesting cartoon to me, because that relationship that Trump has with other world leaders isn't entirely clear. And sometimes the idea of, is it all just a game to them, or what's actually at play here? It's very well done, this cartoon.
Yeah, this was quite interesting, I guess. Being able to sort of, I think this idea originally started as a sort of a larger cartoon, an idea for maybe the Sunday Age. It didn't get used, and then I ended up bringing it down to see whether I could fit it all into a little pocket cartoon, which is, when I'm drawing them, they're 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. So I was quite happy to be able to get the caricatures all in there and the information to sort of carry off the idea. And I think this was relating to when went and had the meeting with Trump in Alaska, which was didn't end so well, but he rolled out the red carpet. And so yeah, I think that's where this one came from. But just the whole idea of it seems that Donald's been played by everyone. That's the message. That's the idea, and it's a nice visual to link that in.
So from talking about Trump, we're moving to some of the cartoons that deal with the various conflicts in the Middle East, which has been an inescapable issue around the world, and it's been deeply felt here in Australia as well. It's ever present in the media, and it's been one of the topics most covered by Australian cartoonists. In fact, I'd say that when we harvest cartoons for the exhibition, that close to a quarter of the cartoons are on this topic. So how to comment on war and represent war by artists has got to be one of the greatest challenges. And I wonder if you both could talk a little bit about this, and you've selected this particular Kathy Wilcox cartoon as well. So if you could tell us about that a bit as well, please.
I was just going to say that Kathy does such consistently fearless, fantastic work on this topic, and doesn't shy away from what many of us are feeling and thinking, and has just such a beautiful way of summing it up. And this is one of the examples of that, just the impossible situation these people are living with. And she comes from a place of humanity, and I think that's often a really good way to deal with this topic, is what are the people experiencing, rather than what's going on for the people pulling the strings or pressing the red buttons. what's happening on the ground. And I think that's a way I often approach it, but Kathy does it so incredibly well.
Yeah, and I think there's obviously those, the rallies every weekend. There's this huge groundswell of people who are really affronted by all the issues that are going on, and when you can sum it up like Kathy has done here so beautifully succinctly, there is no safe place for these people to find shelter. Yes, they have a choice. There's two choices there, and I think when you be able to give voice to what it is that people feel they want to be said, that's where this is very distressing. It's in our feeds every day, and the events and the images are horrific. But I think that through this process, when you capture it, it helps a lot of people. So.
Yeah. And Megan, we've got a cartoon of yours that was, I think, referring to the first time, the first Iranian conflict last year. Not the first, but the one that happened last year in July, I think. And also, I think this cartoon and the next one very powerfully draw children into the subject area, which is something that obviously we all deal. It's all very hard, or very difficult for all of us to deal with when you think about children being exposed to a lot of this horror. Megan, would you like to talk about this cartoon?
Yeah, so you're right. This was the first time Trump obliterated their nuclear program. He's had to go back a second time. I'm not sure how that works, but that was the excuse the first time, that he was wiping out the nuclear program, and he succeeded bigly. But here we are again. So, and the fact that it was all done without negotiation, without discussion with allies, without obeying or even considering the international rules of law, as we're seeing again, and it's just emboldened them, and they're just doing it more and more. So it's this idea that in that region, there's a very easy excuse that seems to justify any attack or advance, or whatever you want to call it, taking of territory, blowing things up, is that, it could have been Hamas, it could have been this, it could have been that. Who's paying the price for these could have beens, and how do we in the West know what the truth is of any of this? How does anyone know, other than once it's blown up? I guess that's the end of the conversation. So it was just that I just wanted to express that futility of continually hearing that argument as the retrospective explanation for why all these horrible things were happening. And we're seeing it again. They could have had a nuclear program, so let's obliterate them. And at what point does somebody stand up to say, no, that's not good enough?
I think there have been some very powerful cartoons by both of you, and I'm thinking of Kathy as well, and First Dog, and some other cartoonists that have talked about the horror of these conflicts. And there are conflicts going on all around the world, and it's very hard to, when you see children dying, to explain to children here living in Australia what it's all about. And this cartoon kind of summed it up for me, that difficulty. And it's also, it's a great cartoon. Matt, do you want to talk a bit about it?
Again, it's the windswept sort of, it's got this sort of very emotive scene. It's a father talking to his daughter and trying to explain how humans can do these things to humans, and it's relating to, I guess, night after night after night we just hear about whether it was aid workers or nurses, schools, hospitals, Palestinian journalists, whatever it may be. We're looking into it. It was a mistake, I guess. So when you explain it, I guess, the power of this one, I guess, is you having to explain actions to a child, and when you sort of break it down, it just sort of pulled all those pieces together.
Go to another Kathy Wilcox cartoon, and we'll wander into the murky and frightening, but also for some people exciting world of artificial intelligence and AI. And this is a this is a very good. I have to say that that Kathy has to be, if she's not the best, she's one of the best along with you guys, cartoonists. Like constantly, every time I see any of her work on any subject, it's just she's so funny. I mean, so insightful and cutting, but just so funny. Anyway, so this was another one chosen by both of you of Kathy's about artificial intelligence. Would you like to talk a bit about why you chose it, or just AI in general?
It was definitely one of my favourites of Kathy. I think from this year. So we've got this sort of really menacing robotic mechanical dog that's being fed from a skip containing wonderful sort of cultural books and paintings and sculptures and whatnot from scientists, putting them in one end, and the caption is, "It's marvelous, really. You just feed in all the intellectual property you can get your hands on without paying for it, and then sell whatever comes out this end." I just thought it was, just a beautiful visual for, I guess, what people label AI slop. Megan, what are your thoughts?
Oh, look, I just second all of those emotions. And yeah, it's one of my favorite new pastimes is finding people on social media who have very great comedic ways of pointing out how dumb AI can be. There's some fabulous people who audition AI actors. There's Bess Kalb, who does the Grudge Report on Substack, who feeds ChatGPT all these questions like, what prayer verses should I say to a woman who arrives at a voting queue in Georgia or something and finds that she's no longer eligible to vote, and it comes back with answers. So that's my favorite kink now. I love this. Anything that reminds us of how stupid and diminished the output is, the better. I think. Yeah.
And here's one of your cartoons on it, which was very, very clever, because I think using Tetris, which is, such an easy to understand format. And I think this is one of the, when we put together the show, we have about 3 or 4 weeks to write all the captions that are about 60 words. And I think and there are about 150 captions we have to write, and I got to caption 120, and I was like, I wonder what if AI would help at all. I'll just try a little experiment, and it was so seductive, the idea of doing it, and the things that came back were, you're right, so terrible, and they were conflating different stories, and the facts were not quite right, or they were anyway. This cartoon really spoke to me on that particular issue, but there's also a lot more going on here. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, so it was around the time of that productivity commission where the only people at the table were big tech and people who were basically trying to convince the government to open the floodgates and let them in and let them set up their data centers and let them have the energy and let them have all the IP and get rid of all the copyright law. And what I was trying to say with this cartoon is, if you let that happen, it's going to happen really fast, and it wipes out a huge part of all this value, the originality, the job security, human agency, all those things there. You can feel the speed of that 4-block one about to drop down, and you know that they're just going to keep coming and eliminate everything else, but you can feel how quickly it'll happen. You just let you say yes to it, and then before you know it, we can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. So I wanted to find a way to say, we've got to tread really carefully. We've already let it go way too far. And if you let those things slot in now, that it's going to be very hard to wind back, if possible at all.
Yeah.
So,
or it could have this kind of effect already. And I think, Matt, do you want to talk about this cartoon? I think kind of touches on a little bit of what Megan was just.
Yeah, just the idea, I guess, of thinking of visual symbols that would capture the idea of human creativity, and Rodin's sculpture of the thinker sort of came to mind. So I just started playing around with the idea of, again, I've just sort of changed the thinker's sort of gone from his pondering his creative mode and looking up at this huge wrecking ball coming in, with the idea of all mankind's creativity and beauty has been scraped and then turned into this huge ball coming flying towards us, which is sort of how we're all feeling, and we haven't even made it to the end of the week yet. Again, it's just a simple visual. Obviously, Megan's picture beautifully captures so much more beautifully. This is just, again, a strong visual that just says, okay, what's coming for us.
Yeah. Oh, look, I just tend to use more words than I wish I could. I wish I was using fewer words, but I always end up putting in lots of words, which is very annoying. So I love that you can say so much without putting all the text. I think that's cartoon goals, really.
I think both approaches have their merits. So we're getting close to the end of the presentation. I thought it might be just good to finish off with a few cartoons that talk more generally about how we respond to the craziness in the world. Sometimes in the cartoons, you're both very good at putting sort of a proxy in for us and how we're feeling, and and some of these cartoons do that, and some of them just talk about just generally how crazy everything is. And here's one strategy. Here's one here from you, Megan, about maybe the best way to avoid that craziness is to just not read the news.
Oh, wouldn't it be lovely? There are people out there who don't read it. I know they exist. I've met some of them. They do look more relaxed. So yeah, we can't do that. So
it's not a great career move. Maybe.
No, it wouldn't be good for us.
Professional advice.
Do you ever take a break? Do you guys, like, when you I'm sure you both get holidays. So when you're on holidays, or actually, most creative artists I know don't go on holidays. They're always kind of like working on something or doodling on something or taking notes. But is there any time where you can just kind of shut down from the news?
I've had a little break before Christmas where I think I had about 3.5 weeks, and I did sort of find that spot, and it was quite lovely. You'd glance at the headline, or you just, I guess, skim across just to sort of keep your toe in the water. But I had this lovely feeling of serenity of what Megan was saying about these people that are actually happy. So that was quite nice, and you can jump back in and everything will be the same, but just a little bit worse. So the way I've sort of been feeling this week is that I should have really been more appreciative of last week's bin fire, because last week's bin fire was really quite nice. The good old bin fire days. It just feels like every week is outdoing itself. So I'm enjoying this week because I know next week it's going to be terrible.
That's another Simpsons meme where Homer is saying to Bart something about, this is the hottest summer you've ever had, or something, so far. Yes, it is that feeling that it is going to keep getting worse and worse. But yeah, and I don't really have holidays per se, being a freelancer. So yeah, and I what I do though is, because my cartoon days are a bit spaced out, I don't deep dive on the news every day. I do that little skim every day to make sure I know what's happening, and then as my day is approaching, then I start to really lock in. But I realize that because things are moving so fast, locking in all the time is not good for my mental health, but also often means you have lots of ideas that you can't use anyway because you only get a couple of slots. So yeah, I do get those mini breaks, I guess. Take a little break.
So for people Megan also, for people watching that don't know, Megan also has a Substack account where are you still trying to post a cartoon a day?
Yeah, I'm on a bit of a break just because it just all became overwhelming, but I'll be back to it soon. I'm trying to work out really what's useful, and I think I might pivot a little bit just from straight New Yorker cartoons to things that might give people a bit of relief about what's happening. So not news, not straight news, but a little less gag cartoony, because I'm not feeling as gag cartoony at the moment, and I don't know who is really.
Yeah.
But I'll be back there soon. So, but yes, I probably did it every day for close to a year. and then needed a little break. So
Mm.
focus on other projects for a minute. Yeah.
And Matt, you're mostly working for The Age and the Sydney Morning Herald or Nine newspapers. And I put this cartoon off as a compliment to this question, because sometimes I see cartoons and I wonder, especially when they're about something like climate change or a lot of the issues that we've talked about that are ever current or ever present. Are there days, how many cartoons do you have an editor, or you're responding to an editorial request or the news of the day, versus how many you just wake up and go, I just have to say something about this today, about this thing that's been on my mind?
Yeah, it sort of varies. I mean, every day there's do a little cartoon for the Age readers when they send in their little letters. So you get sent a list of choices, I guess, little sort of launching pads of the readers. Beverly from Mulgrave, or Upset Paul from Clifton Hill, and so I will draw one of these little pocket cartoons for that, and then most days I'll be doing pockets. I'll talk to the editor and they'll maybe list 5, 6 or 7 different stories that are coming up in the paper tomorrow, and then I can pretty much just basically work on those topics. If you get an idea, that's great. If you don't, they'll just run the copy. So there's a lovely sort of freedom with the pocket cartoons where you can float amongst a whole bunch of different topics and see what takes your fancy. And then I think twice a week I'm doing the larger cartoons, which so yeah, it's a whole mixture of things. But yeah, I mean, I think with this one, I sort of find by the end of the week. So today I'm drawing for the Saturday Age tomorrow, and normally in the afternoon you're fairly warmed up from a week of reading and doing the ideas. I try to take a little bit of a lighthearted sort of Friday afternoon drinks sort of feel to the creative process, and actually have some fun. And everything is so heavy at the moment. Everything is so weighted and confronting and horrible. Just to take a little chance. It's sort of it's sort of self-help for me, and possibly self-help for the readers. So this case here, the climate risk assessment, which was horrific reading. So not to sort of make light of it, it's more just a coping mechanism for everybody to let off a bit of steam before we go back in there again.
And maybe you can send some of these emojis after you've read it.
That's right.
This is one of your Substack ones, Megan. I've since looked for some of these. I thought I wondered, like, after it was posted, did anyone? I don't know who controls the world's emojis or who decides which emoji gets into the emoji canon, but I think some of these should join it if they're not there already.
I feel like I use that one, the red-cheeked kind of drunky looking one. I use that so much at the moment, and I didn't used to. The other one is the melty face. I'm using that all the time. And, I'm probably using them incorrectly, but they're the feelings. It's ridiculous, isn't it? But I'm referring to Matt's last cartoon, and also in general your pockets. I think what you do, the ability to extract a proper guffaw, a snort laugh from your readers is so magical and important, and it's so hard to do. And I just wanted to bow down to you for that, because it's the number of times when I'm flicking and one of yours comes up and it's just a spit take moment, and it's really hard to get that when the news is so dire. So bravo is all I can say.
Yeah, if liquid leaves the body, that's great.
Yeah, it frequently does.
Yeah. Talking about ones that made me laugh the very first time I saw them, and I'm glad this one came back. And you suggested it, but I love the expression on the Donald newsreader's face. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. There's something quite nice. I think very simple drawing style, but the eyes can communicate so much. It's a lovely tool in cartooning, and it is just the slightest mark in a different direction can sort of what it is you're trying to say, but without words. which I guess is the beauty of cartooning. But it still surprises me that that simplicity, just the way you can sort of position a body, or the torso, or the hands, or the eyes, or the eyebrows. It's a lovely way to sort of value add to whatever comment you're making. So
it's very hard to do. Mark Knight's very good at that.
And it's great fun to do. Again, you sort of you stumble across these ideas as you're playing around, and sometimes they just click in. It's a lovely thing to
I especially liked it because I found myself, since I have a 6 and a 7-year-old, and they play around with that combination quite a lot, the 6, 7. But I found myself, since I've had children, because of the state of the world, I feel like I'm being a bit of a downer, but I'm watching a lot more sport. I don't know why. It's something like, it's meaningful meaninglessness. I can just watch something that's meaningless for a while, but it seems like it has meaning. It seems like it's really important. If Team Y beats Team X, it's a good. I recommend it to people. This particular cartoon appealed to me in so many ways because this is a thing that I've thought a lot about following the news. Is how the international rules-based order, whatever that was, even if it was a thing, if it was a fiction, it was a thing that made people feel better, or a certain amount of people feel better. And it does feel like it's something breaking down. But it also made me think of the Goodies episode about the Loch Ness Monster, which made me feel really great. So thank you for that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Again, we're a dying breed, people who know who the Goodies were.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just one more before we finish off and go to questions. Just another incredibly great use of the flag, Matt. And it's a very potent American symbol, and this is a brilliant cartoon, I think.
Yeah, again, it was it's such simple graphics, but it's again just it's got a beautiful simplicity to tell a story about obviously Donald Trump threatening and berating to take over Greenland. So it worked on so many levels. Just that simplicity of sort of the extra out of place. I guess what you're trying to do with cartoons is put something in there that doesn't belong. That's sort of the at the end of the 1, 2, 3 joke. The punchline comes at the end. Something that you didn't expect, something that jumps out. So it's got this lovely sort of visual absurdity to it, of this making you sort of look. It's
Okay, thank you for that. I enjoyed that very much. Thank you. It was fascinating, and I'll throw over to Katie because I just check and see if anyone's put any questions in the chat.
Thank you. That was just spectacular. I'm sure I speak for everyone when I just say, oh my God, so good. I always look forward to these discussions when I can then look back at behind the lines with fresh eyes almost and just see tiny little details that I never noticed before. So we've got a question in the chat. Many cartoons these days are clever and poignant, but not funny. Do cartoonists still aim to make people laugh?
Some do,
Let's
don't they?
That.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the times we're in. I mean, I think there's the joy of humor is that people can drop their guard when you're communicating a message rather than being angry and berating them. The idea of the guard drops, they're more relaxed, and that's a great vehicle to be able to deliver your message. But obviously, there's a time and a place for it. And Megan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot of online cartoonists who aren't necessarily attached to newspapers. I think as well, perhaps some of those can be more angry, or in some cases really graphic, or that seems to be popping up more online. But I think when that's done really well in a newspaper or anywhere, it provides a service because we are all seeing the same horrors. So to have a moment of breaking that tension before you have to return to the horror is, I think, really important. So yes, I actually agree that you're not seeing it as much, but I think it is a really important part of cartooning, and I certainly don't always get it right, but I think it's the best version of political cartoons are that. And there are still some people doing it very well, I think. Matt
like,
being one of the number ones.
The chaser and shovel and whatnot, they pick it apart every day beautifully. So it's needed, but not always necessary.
For me, I always see the cartoons in behind the lines, and they're, you know, this big, and I can see all the details and have so much fun. And Matt, you said 5 by 5 centimeters. I literally pulled out a ruler because I cannot imagine them that small. How do you, I mean, both of you really, how do you succinct everything down to such a tiny little thing?
Well, what's good about the pockets is that the actual space dictates what you can do with it. So when you're given the bigger spot, the editorial cartoon spot, you have a lot of space to fill, and it's very prominent. You sort of feel obliged to put more in there. With the pocket cartoons, you know, there are only so many words you can put in there, and you know that the more words you put in there, the less attention people, you know, are going to read. So the actual space defines, you know, it makes you sort of refine and distill your idea down to its almost simplest form. So that's, yeah, it's like a little cage match, creative cage match in there. Megan?
Yeah, I just think in all creative pursuits, having constraints actually just adds fuel to what you're doing. The minute you've got a giant amount of space, or you can write about anything, you can cartoon about anything, that is really hard. I love the fact that when I sit down to do my cartoons, I've got the sort of guideline of what everyone else has cartooned about the week before, because it immediately eliminates those topics or whatever. So I think having a small space is one of those constraints that actually helps you, as you said, it helps you filter the idea and get to the nub of things. So yeah.
Thank you, Matt, Megan, and Matt. I mean, just amazing. We've sort of come to the end of our time, and thank you for your time, and thank you to everyone watching. And don't forget to come and see Behind the Lines at the Old Treasury Building until the 3rd of May, and then it's off other places. And of course, the full exhibition is in Canberra. Do see it if you get the chance. This year, Behind the Lines is presented as part of the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. We hope you get the chance to visit soon. Thanks for watching.
You too. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Katie.